Hi guys, hope you're well. This is the first live stream of my new setup, so hopefully it won't crash and burn like it almost did last week. But anyway, so the Growth Strategy Roadmap and podcast and live stream is all about interviewing real people that run real businesses that I think will add value to your business or career. Each week I try and interview someone interesting, but also someone that I've got some history with that actually we can kind of bounce off and talk about real things. And then likewise, as I said with my guest last week, it's also nice when you see people's progression over time, and we've all gone on to do different things and stuff, and today's guest is no different. So I'm going to bring Emily in a second. I know that she can talk almost as much as I can, but we'll try and keep it to kind of 40 or so minutes. We've got some really good questions. I know she's got some really kind of good knowledge to share. So yeah, might as well kick off. So Emily, would you like to say hi to everyone?
Hello. I'm going to do the Zoomy live stream wave thing that's we all do now.
So I haven't actually seen you for, I reckon it's probably about a year or so. It's been a canny while.
It has been, yeah, definitely.
So how's life? What have you been up to?
Life is kind of bonkers. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I think the last time we had a proper conversation was at the air show, I think.
Wow.
When we went there, which was a bit ago. Obviously, we've seen each other since, but I think that's the last time we actually had some proper time to sort of catch up and things. So, but since then, I'm with a different company. I'm running got some coffee shops, doing lots of mad things. So yeah.
So I must admit, I think combined with Matt, I think you're jointly the most popular people on Teesside.
Oh, thanks. I'm sure that's not true, but thanks anyway.
No, cool. So one of the things I like to do with the kind of interviews and stuff is that it's a little bit different. And it's almost to dig more into your history and your backstory and to kind of just almost walk through your journey to kind of where you are and almost where you want to get to. And part of the reason why we kind of do that is that there's a lot of people that might be interested, but likewise, even us, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, there weren't always a huge amount of people that you could see their path and actually ask them questions and stuff. And that's kind of what this is all about. So would you be like, did you grow up in the Northeast?
Yeah, so I'm a borough lass, born and bred. My parents aren't from Middlesbrough, but they moved up for work. So I was born in Middlesbrough and I've stayed in Middlesbrough and I'm still in Middlesbrough and it's the best town ever.
Like, what were you like at school? Were you like a bit of a swot? Were you good? Were you bad? Were you rebellious? Or?
Well, I was a bit of a swot, but before I started school, I could already read and write and count and stuff. So I was a little bit ahead. And then I think I got a bit lazy at school because I kind of knew it, or thought I knew it all already. So I think I breezed through infants and juniors and rebelled a little bit into juniors and was a bit naughty, but not so that my parents knew. And yeah, so I was kind of didn't want to be in a classroom, didn't want to be tied to work, hated maths, just wanted to be outdoors and running around, really.
No, cool. Because I was actually very similar. That with I'd always get myself into trouble over stupid stuff. Like I remember in junior schools, do you remember when rulers used to be wooden? And
yes.
I'd sit in a class and I'd just gradually bend it, and I'd bend it a bit more, and then eventually it'd snap. But I wasn't snapping it to cause attention or whatever. I was just testing, And I always used to get into loads of stupid stuff like that, and it was just. But I think sometimes it's that just it's life, it's adventure, it's kind of I don't have kids, but I imagine if I did, I'd almost want them to be a little bit kind of rebellious.
Yeah, I was always out and about, up trees, sort of proper tomboy, grazing my knee, racing round on my bike, trying to be the fastest round the block, that kind of thing. In secondary school, again, I was a bit in the SWAT category and played the violin, which attracted the wrong kind of attention. And so, inevitably you get bullied, don't you, through sort of school life, unless you are the bully. Yeah. I have to say it's actually made me probably a stronger person. At the time it was horrible. And I can't imagine what it must be like for children growing up now, especially with social media, because obviously when you went home, you escaped it. And now it's around children the whole time. So I think it must be a completely different kettle of fish for people growing up at the moment. But yeah, I think come fifth year, I realised that actually, if you stood up for yourself, then people just backed down, and quite quickly the tables sort of turned, and yeah, and then those people, where are they now? Who knows? And I don't care. So I don't carry them around with me as a chip or a burden.
So how did you go through, what was your first job? I'm just trying to get a picture of how your career's kind of developed. And
yeah, I always said I would never work in an office, which is really strange because I work in an office. So, I mean, I was always really arty. So, I mean, I wanted to do things like, I wanted to be a prima ballerina, for example, and then I wanted to be an architect or a vet or something, you know, sort of not too office-based. I suppose architecture is a bit office-based, but I wanted to do sort of outdoorsy things. So when I left, I went to college, did my A-levels, and kind of just went through the function and motion of doing academic stuff because that was probably what was expected of me to do. Mm-hmm. And it seemed the right way to go. I mean, apprenticeships back then weren't what they are now. They weren't pushed as something. There was YTS schemes and that kind of thing, but there wasn't really, you know, the structure that there is at the moment where you can go out into the world of work and then get your training. So I went and did my A-levels, got into art college, but it was part of Teesside University as well. So it was sort of a 4-year degree. And I was going to specialise in interior design. I lasted about 2 weeks there. So over the summer, there was all of this project work that they asked you to do prior to joining, which I started to do. And I just sort of got there and I thought, this is not me. I'm going to sit here for 4 years doing what I really love. But at the end of it, will I be employable? Mm-hmm. And I wasn't sure. Now, obviously, this isn't to completely diss the whole artistic route, because it isn't, but it just didn't seem right for me at the time. So I left, enrolled at Kirby College and did a private and executive secretary's diploma, which involved learning lots of things about business. It involved typing, it involved learning how to use a computer. It was when I was introduced to a mouse for the first time. That's the computer mouse, not not the rodent. You know, and so it was an incredibly steep learning curve, and I absolutely loved it because there was so much there that I hadn't experienced before. You know, so learning how to do word processing, Excel. It was slightly before PowerPoint, I think, existed. Audio typing, all sorts of stuff, and it was things that you could kind of crack on, do. And I got more qualifications in that year than I'd ever done. And you know, from learning how to fold a piece of paper and put it in an envelope. I mean, that sounds really silly, but it's really funny when you try and watch people doing it that don't know what they're doing.
I did a year, is it not year 15, age 15, year 10, year 11, you know, when you do your work experience. And I did 2 weeks in the HSBC. So in a bank.
Right, okay.
And I was basically counting money, but one of the things that I was taught to do was fold paper into envelopes. Yes. And even now I can nail it in terms of to put it into a D5 envelope. And you kind of get it instilled. And one of my other strange traits or claims to fame is that my first kind of, I say summer job, but like job, it was in a supermarket. It was actually on a deli counter that does meats and cheeses. And I got incredibly good at being able to visually look and weigh a piece of cheese, which sounds the stupidest thing you've ever seen. But if you were to walk into Waitrose, I can guess how much stuff weighs just because it's the stuff that you learn that is priceless.
Yeah. It's just the silly things that sort of stick with you as well. And I learned how to touch type, which is absolutely invaluable now. You know, I love that I can bash something out really quickly. And get my thoughts onto metaphorical paper on the computer rather than sort of, you know, like single finger typing or what have you. And I still don't care what anybody says because they don't teach it anymore, but touch typing cannot be beaten. I don't care how computer literate you are. I'll race you.
So if we then fast forward your career.
Yeah. Yeah, fast forward a bit.
So
Yeah.
we met when you were at Evolution?
That's right, yeah. So Evolution evolved out of several accountancy firms.
Yes.
I mean, I started with Keith Robinson and Co, having finished at doing my diploma at Kirby, straight out into receptionist type role. And this really is where I cut my teeth with business relationships, because obviously Evolution by then, I already knew quite a lot of the business community, and that was simply because I sat on reception in an accountancy firm in the centre of Middlesbrough, but just near the university.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone that came in for a meeting, I greeted, did them a tea or coffee, sat them down and had a conversation. I also then, when Keith Robinson, one of the partners, or Terry Troon, one of the other partners, went out for a meeting or a networking event,
Mm-hmm.
I would put these in the diaries. I would understand and speak to them about it. They would come back. They would give me a pile of business cards, and I would have to sit and type all of those into a database. I would also then, they would dictate an email saying, great to speak to you, lovely to meet you, hope this goes well, happy to have a conversation about, etc., etc. And then they were following up on those leads. That is a brilliant foundation to understand and a process to get, because that whole journey from meeting someone at a networking event to then following up, which is the most important thing after meeting them, to then having another meeting and then converting that, or not necessarily at that point in time, but then creating a relationship which will later on perhaps create some revenue or a referral of a client that will then create some revenue. That foundation at Keith Robinson and Co, way back when I was 19, 20, was a very, very good learning for me. Mm-hmm. And also, I was very lucky in that firm that it was very sort of paternalistic, and they took you out to events. So we went to dinners and we hosted clients. So I was very young. However, because I was face to face, I had the confidence, and you already knew people in the room anyway because I'd seen them on reception, and you just continue those conversations. And so I think that really from a networking perspective, once sort of the journey through Keith Robinson and Co into Vantis and then into Evolution, before I became marketing, I already had that foundation set. So Evolution was a natural progression, I think.
Because one of the things that I realised actually was quite recently is that I set up on my own in October, and I had a business meeting in Sheffield. I think it was in February 2020.
Yeah.
And actually, when I was talking to the guy, I actually started my first business in 2010, 2009. And I think almost in the same way as what you've just said, is that you started to cut your teeth and learn how to do business development and follow up and speak to people and stuff. Arguably, that was your 10,000 hours. So you started early, you learn your craft, as Matt from Ithaca said, you learn to fail. But actually, over years and years and years, you build it up. So actually, probably when we met, you'd already reached that peak where you knew exactly what you were doing, how you were going to do it. It was comfortable, it was easy. And then before we jump onto some of the other questions that we've kind of planned, so talk me through kind of Evolution, how that evolved into marketing.
Yeah, so Evolution was born out of a national company, and very quickly, I have to say, because the national was going under. And the management team, including Keith Robinson, sort of my original boss, was very instrumental in forming a business very quickly to do a management buyout of the 3 Northeast offices. And it was such an amazing time and such an exciting time, forming a new company, being involved in that, typing stuff up, because I was admin still then. And but being involved in this whole process that then became this new exciting accountancy firm, and we were back as independents, and we had our destiny in our own hands, and it was very much a business that everybody contributed to, the whole team that sort of came on that journey, and it just felt like a new birth, I suppose. And the marketing manager, who is now a lecturer at Teesside University, she was marketing manager then, and she just took me under her wing, and she was brilliant and sort of, showed me how to do bits and bobs, and I would help her doing things. And she was an early adopter of social media, so she got a Twitter account for the company, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of was where I cut my teeth from a marketing perspective. Then she left to go to the uni to be a senior lecturer, and I kind of thought, well, what's going to happen now? So rather than them recruiting externally, I kind of said to the partners, will you give me 3 months trial? I think I can do this, right?
So did you approach them and say, look, this opportunity's come up. Can you give me a shot?
Well, I hadn't even got as far as thinking about recruiting. I just kind of went to a partners meeting and said, obviously, Dawn's leaving, but I think I can do this. And I know I've got no real experience. I've got no qualifications, because Dawn had a degree and everything, and, done it forever. And I said, but will you just give me a chance? And if I make a complete pig's ear of it, then fine. But I do think that I can really do this role. And they said, go away, we'll let you know. And luckily they said yes, and I'm forever grateful to the guys for saying yes, because it must have been a gamble as well, this new growing business, which was only sort of 6 months old at the time, to then put it in the hands of an amateur, in effect, must have been sort of not an easy decision, but I was so pleased that they did that, because that was really, a role that I sort of absolutely loved.
Because what I love on 2 points, one, it's the whole Northeast thing of shy burns getting out. So it's the fact that you actually went to them and said, look, an opportunity's come up, let me have a crack at it. And then likewise, it's when someone's willing to take a punt on you. So it's almost you would have demonstrated your talent and your heart and your passion about everything you were doing. So actually, they would have recognised that, whether you did or didn't at the time.
Yeah, no, you're dead right. I mean, it wasn't the first time that I'd done that. The first time I did that was when I very first got my first job, because I also had a job interview the same day for Keith. There was Keith Robinson and Co accountants, and then there was the art college for a admin role, and I got both jobs. The Keith Robinson and Co was a maternity job that was paying like a YT type wage. The art school was a 2-year contract paying a normal wage, but I actually preferred the accountancy firm, which was an odd option since I had the love of art, but it just felt right. But why would I then accept £71 a week when I could get a lot more at the art school, and just for a temporary contract? So I kind of rang up and spoke to, I think it was Terry Freerin at Keith Robinson and Co, and sort of said, look, I've been offered another job elsewhere. However, I really want to work for you, but not on the wage that's offered. So if you're happy to pay me a normal wage, then I'll come and work for you. And if not, I'll go to the art college.
But good on you, to be honest.
But I don't know how I actually have the balls to do stuff like that, because I don't really think I'm a ballsy person. But I just think that when you know something's in your gut, I think when you know something's right, or you think it's going to be the best, not just for yourself, but you think it would work for the other side, then I think it's important to say things. I think it's important to sort of put that out there.
Cool. So one of the first times that we met, and probably the first, 20 times, was also at networking events.
Yeah.
And it was one of the things, I don't know if you saw the interview I did with Matt last week.
I did, yes.
But it was almost one of the things that because I watch and look and learn and listen all the time. And the two people that were the best at in-person networking were you and Matt.
Right.
And it was always interesting for me to learn and see what you did and how you approached it. Obviously, Matt's really into his golf, and that was a big part of his thing. But how did you discover the power of business networking and how that impacted your career?
Well, I think obviously going back to Keith Robinson Cove, because I was present at some of the events, you could see, and it's exactly the same as what you've described there. I was watching the interaction. I was watching how the room was worked. I was watching how things developed. And then because I had the other side, the sort of administrative side, to understand then about the importance of following up and then continuing those conversations outside of the room. And I think it's all about, don't overthink a situation. A lot of people hate networking. I absolutely love it. I will walk into a room where I literally do not know anybody, but I don't care. And people might think that I'm a bit weird. And I do think it is maybe a bit weird. But you just speak to people and stop thinking too much into it, because don't overthink situations. I mean, that would be a huge piece of advice I'd give to people. Stop thinking about what people think about you. Stop it, because it'll undermine what you're trying to achieve. Nobody cares if you come over and say at a networking event, oh, hi, and then introduce yourself and then ask them about them and then have a conversation. And it might not be someone that you would necessarily follow up with or that wants to follow up with you, but you've still had that interaction with somebody because you don't know what that interaction might bring. So I think really, because of my past, walking into a room for networking isn't an issue that it is to other people.
But I think it's a skill that most people don't appreciate. So it's almost how it's easy to look at someone has a degree in mechanical engineering, so therefore they're quite tech and you can understand the stuff. But I know so many technically good people that can't talk to people.
Yes.
Or I was going to say, it's because there is an element of, I know a lot of people that hate business development. They hate going to events. They feel it's forced. Because one of the big things that I now get paid to do, as I know you do, is that when you're actually doing your marketing, your promotion and stuff for other companies, it's treat them like normal people. So don't just like brain dump products and services and stuff. Just ask them stuff. And it's just almost, it's having the confidence to say, actually, no, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to do this, 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 and this. And just over years, you kind of know that it works. But I guess it does take, it's a skill set, the same as being good at accountancy as it is to be able to talk to people. And again, I guess in any team, it's how you match those people together.
Totally. I mean, when we were at Evolution, we had sort of people that would be brand ambassadors and they were happy to go out, and I would take them with me and not hold the hand, but metaphorically hold the hand and introduce them to people and try and set that path to then go on from there. But then there were and they were technical as well, but then there were others that weren't comfortable in that environment, but would bang out a set of accounts, sort of. So, and it's horses for courses. Everyone can't be good at everything, because the world would be boring, wouldn't it? So I think that it is a skill, and it's a skill that can be developed, and I think it does make a difference. I mean, the other thing was, with Tees Valley Business Club, I was aware of Tees Valley Business Club because Keith Robinson had things to do with the club. And then I think that was one of the first sort of networking event forums that I went to when I was becoming the marketing manager for Evolution. And again, it's people that have faith in you. And I think there was the sign-in desk and it was really busy. And I just sort of volunteered and said, well, can I help? Because I knew some of the people coming through the door and sort of giving people, getting people to sign in and that whole process. And being on that sign-in desk, I got to know the business community. And again, to have been allowed to do that on behalf of the club before they really knew who I was again, sort of someone putting faith into you. I mean, sort of Jane Reynolds, who obviously is chair now of the business club, but wasn't at the time, and Jane Campbell and Pauline, and the people that were involved at the time, they didn't have to say, well, yes, you can help. They might have just thought, who's this weird person?
So tell me about Communicate PLC.
So yeah, Communicate. I've been there for more than 3 years now. How bonkers is that? So Communicate was a client of Evolution now. So Baldwin's actually, no, it's not. It's Azets is the new brand as of a few days ago, I think. And so got to know the company through there and joined them in summer 2017. And so they do amazing things, like connecting. I mean, we're talking now because we've got connectivity, and this is what Communicate brings to people, like high speed connectivity. We're an ISP, so we can provide broadband to people. We can give you software, hardware, cybersecurity, which is huge at the moment because, especially more so now, we're working from an office environment, perhaps, and home or just home. You know, sort of you need to make sure that you're cyber secure with whatever you're doing, because it could destroy your business basically overnight. You know, I think the 2 unis have been attacked recently. It was on the news the other day. Northumbria and Newcastle. So, I mean, if big businesses can get that, I mean, small businesses are vulnerable too. So we do that, and then telecoms. So we do call routing globally, across the world, different time zones, etc. So it's absolutely mind-blowing. And going from accountancy, and I mean, tax is pretty mind-blowing, to be fair, but going into tech from accountancy was like, whoa, what's going on? Help. But I've learned so much over the last 3 years being there. And it isn't, you know, sort of people think it's all geeky. It's not. It's about helping humans to do things in the daily lives and get on with the work and look after that side of things for them, whilst they crack on with whatever the daily tasks are, and offering them support if something went awry. So it's very similar, actually, to the in the core of any service company.
So one thing that I've been dying to ask you, and it's almost because I've never actually asked you about it. I remember, I think you told me that you were planning it back in the day, but anyway. So go on, what's the crack? Bentleys coffee shops. How did it come about? What was the dream? And also, what did you think I was going to ask you is the other thing.
Well, so Bentleys is kind of a bit of an accident, really. I've always loved cake and coffee, obviously. You know, I have to go to the gym 5 times a week because I love cake too much. Well, food in general. Yeah, so it wasn't going to be Bentleys in the first place. It was going to be something else. But then that didn't come off. My other half had been, he'd taken redundancy and was kind of at a point where he's actually always wanted to set up a business, and he's gone on about it. And I've always been really discouraging, actually, to be fair. And he'll say the same about it. Simply because through working with businesses and seeing the pain of business ownership, obviously there's the great results and stuff, but seeing all of that, you know, long hours, juggling, you've got to be your marketing manager, a HR manager, an accountant, you know, everything that goes with it. I just kind of always backed away. So he's pushed me to accept that this is a good thing to do. And it is a good thing to do, and I'm not saying it isn't. But Bentleys came about. We got a phone call from the landlords of the Parkway Centre because they knew through the grapevine we were interested in starting a business. And again, they put faith in us as a business startup, and we took on the lease in the coffee shop space in Colby New and Parkway Centre. And that was we opened on the 1st of July last year as Bentleys Coffee Shop. And it was so fun doing the brand because, again, we weren't called Bentleys in the first place. And because of obviously the contacts that I've got, I went and spoke to the guys that I'd worked with for the Evolution brand because I absolutely loved their approach and high ground design in Stockton. Okay. So absolute phenomenal people. And so we went and we spoke to them and they sort of came up with the Bentleys branding and stuff. And you know, we didn't call it after me. That was their idea, but it fits quite well and it sounds quite nice. So we did that, and then again, my other half, Martin, said, "Oh, I've seen this opportunity at Middlesbrough Sports Village to take over their cafe area," and I was like, "Oh God."
Are you up to number 5 now?
Yeah, so we're up to 5. So that was the second one, which we opened 3 days before lockdown. And then we were introduced to Debenhams during lockdown because they've closed all of their coffee shop provisions. And then we've taken on 3 Debenhams ones, which we opened in the middle of August in Scunthorpe, Scarborough and Beverley. And then we've reopened the Middlesbrough Sports Village one last week on the 1st of September. So we're now up to 5.
So this is a business strategy related podcast and show and stuff. What's the vision for Bentleys? Like, what is it that you see as that your kind of USPs and things that you really kind of want to bring to the experience?
I mean, whether it's called a USP, I don't know, but we're just, so we're just normal people. And having a conversation with someone that, again, it's back to the sort of conversation piece, because a lot of people that visit, they might say visit on their own because they're between things, or they just want somewhere to sit, or they're with friends meeting people. And we've got so many regulars at Colby, and having that community type feel to it, it's so important. And obviously we do fantastic cake and fantastic coffee. So we get coffee from Rounton Coffee, which is obviously local business, local suppliers and that kind of thing. So it's really sort of supporting local in the areas in which we sit. So we're trying to kind of replicate that as much as is possible in the other locations. Have
you ever read the Howard Schultz book about when he set up Starbucks?
I do not read books. It's really weird. So I've joined a book club before. Enterprise Made Simple did one. Well, no, because I was invited but politely declined because I said I can't read. And I do not read anything. I don't read fiction. The only thing I read is sort of business magazines or daily newsletters, snippety things that I know what's going on in the world around me, but I don't read business stuff. And do you know why? Because the time that I have spare, which is like this, I'm either walking the dog, going to the gym, speaking to my family and friends, and I literally, and this is no lie, I do not have time to read.
Because in the book, basically, he talks about, he had a vision and an idea, and this is obviously going back to, I think, the 80s, and what he wanted to do was bring the Italian coffee experience to America. But the big thing that they see is their USP. And actually, I do really love your brand. I've got your logo in the corner of the screen. It was trying to create what they call a third space. So basically, you've got home, you've got work, and it's having somewhere else that you can go to relax, to chill out, have 15 minutes to yourself. It's friendly, it's not noisy, and the whole experience is actually kind of what makes the difference. And again, it's almost, so when you, like, what do you look for in a venue? Like, is footfall the most important thing that you look for, or is it culture? Or
venue is location. It's like, the program says location, location, location. There's no point in hiding under a bushel somewhere when no one can find you. It's all right if you're a Michelin starred restaurant that's got, like the man behind the curtain or something like that's created something that's like that. Footfall is an imperative. Visibility is an imperative. If no one can see you, then no one, and you don't shout about yourself, then no one knows you're there. But then obviously it's the marketing that goes with it. So before we opened Colby, I think I was about 6 months into a campaign to try and get awareness, to try and build the vision as to what it was going to be, to sell that before it launched, and then when it launched, match that vision.
Because what's quite interesting is that everything you've just described is also true for people in their careers. So you can be a brilliant accountant or whatever, but if nobody knows who you are and you don't have your own personal brand in the marketplace to see Emily do her thing, it does apply to both careers and business to actually, put yourself out there and actually talk about stuff. And so, no, I appreciate that. And,
totally.
So what's the dream for the business?
I just think that it's grasping opportunities when they present themselves, or finding opportunities if you think something's right. There's a few sort of towns on our thought list, and we've sort of looked at other things that have come along and then either not been quite right or slipped through before we've had chance to get in there. I'm sure that 5 won't be the end of the won't be the end of the story. I'm sure there'll be more. So yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm a complete control freak. So I've got my communicate is full-time job. I've got obviously the Bentleys, which is either 6 a.m. or until 1 p.m. to try and do stuff. Because you can imagine how much paperwork and stuff's involved in running 5 companies, as well as having a full-time job. And you know, you got the business club as well to go with it. And then
one of the things that crossed
stuff.
my mind was almost, have you ever thought about combining your 2 passions? So you're networking with the events and coffee shops to actually host them at the coffee shops to get more people through footfall, and then vice versa, almost catering networking events with Bentley's products. I thought it could be a nice spin-off.
You could do. I just think that model's not where we are. I mean, sort of, we could host an event in Colby after we'd shut, because we wouldn't want to. We are busy all the time, so I wouldn't want to say to you know, one of our regulars, sorry, you can't come in because we're having a networking event in there, because that's not what we're about. And at the moment, you know, there's ambiguity as to what events can be held and how they will be held and stuff. So that is not something that's kind of sort of sitting in my mind at the moment, because there are external companies that do this very well. Mm-hmm. They've already got that investment in the infrastructure. They can already rock up at an event and serve great coffee. I mean, Rounton's does it anyway. They were at the Festival Thrift last year. Obviously, that's gone virtual as well. But, you know, they can do that. Maybe way into the future, potentially.
So, out of interest, did you, I think I actually kind of know the answer, but I was going to ask, did you always have the drive to start a business? But I guess you didn't, but your partner did?
Yeah. I mean, I've always wanted to do something, but I think that...
Fear, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, it's really weird. So I'll jump out of a plane with no fear whatsoever. And I'm not, and I have done that. So it's not like me saying that I would do it. I have done it. So I think I'm slightly mad not having any fear at all. And I'm a bit worried about myself, not to have any self-preservation. However, when it comes to stuff like business, I think because I've been in the environment, and I think because I've already seen what's happened to other businesses in the past, you kind of think, well, do I need that in my life, that hassle? Not that I'm saying that
but it probably also
hassle.
gives you the ability to balance expectation, you know. So I see so many people that think everything is going to be wonderful, you know, rain in money, that kind of thing. As where I kind of went into this again very pessimistic about what I was looking as my target to bill for the year, which I did, but it was just, I didn't have the expectations that, you know, it was all going to be roses. But so maybe it was just that kind of realism.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Yeah. No, I think you're probably right about that, because I know fine well the things that you need to do to create a business that's sustainable and that can run efficiently and that pays its bills and its staff and keeps everything in order and records and, you know, everything like that. It's a big juggling act, and that's what I'll juggle sort of in my spare time, not reading books sort of thing. You know, it's sort of that's you know, sort of that's my book reading, I suppose, if you like. That's my time. So
in every interview, I ask people certain questions. And it's a great way to kind of you to share your knowledge and stuff, but likewise just talk through some interesting ideas. And the first one is almost, what's the best piece of advice you've ever had?
I think I can't think of something that's like the best piece of advice. But I just think it's just, that whole Nike thing, just do it. Mm-hmm. It's what I was saying earlier. So if you think about something, then it might be too late. So just do it is kind of the message, really. And nobody specifically necessarily said that to me. Mm-hmm. But I think that is really a good piece of advice to kind of just do it.
Cool.
Regret the things you've done, not the things you haven't.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. And if you were to give advice to your younger self, and you can be any age, it could be when you got your first job, it could be at school, it could be anything, what would it be?
I think I would definitely go back to secondary school. I sort of mentioned that I was a bit bullied because I was a little bit geeky. And it was miserable at the time. However, I would still go back to school and do it all again. But I think I'd have stood up for myself a lot earlier if I'd have realised the impact that had for the last year of my school life, which was a really happy year. Exams are stressful enough as it is. And I was pleased that I didn't have to then have the additional worry of people, sort of kicking me in the back or pinching my violin and running away with it and stuff like that. I think that if I could go back and just say, just stand up for yourself, I think that would have made it a little bit easier to sail through.
But the funny thing is that almost the tough times as a kid helps form your personality. And
totally,
it could also, be the reason why you're so chatty and outgoing is because you had to be. But actually, in many ways, that's now your superpower, because you can do stuff that other people can't do. So, it's not always a bad thing. But likewise, I've got nieces and nephews that are at school now. And, I pray that they don't get bullied, but, it's going to happen. But it's, as long as you've got the support system around it to kind of see through, it's cool.
Yeah.
So before we kind of start to wrap up, is there anything you want to plug or talk about, or, it's up to you?
You see, even though I'm sort of business development, I'm not a salesy person. And I hate, sort of if you went to buy a car and this person comes over and starts to try and sell you one, and you just think, well, I actually already know what I want, mate, so leave me alone. Treats you like a girl when I'm not a girl in that respect. So, but I would like to sort of plug a few things. So, if anyone's in need of IT support, connectivity or anything, give me a shout, because Communicate can help with that. Absolutely. I am on the board of an amazing charity that's a local charity, the Middlesbrough and Teesside Philanthropic Foundation.
I know it.
I'd urge people to have a look at what we do, and why we do it, and the groups that we give to. A lot of it is under the radar because it's sensitive and personal things that we give to, and we don't sort of publicise that because it would be sometimes embarrassing for the beneficiaries to go through that. But we are very much grassroots charity, and it's something which I'm very, very proud to be involved with, and offer my time to. And if you want some fantastic coffee and cake, go to Bentleys in Colby Newham or Middlesbrough Sports Village to get them. And if you want to attend a really nice, relaxed networking event, come to one of the Tees Valley Business Club events. We are holding them virtually. Yeah.
I'm based out of Gateshead. Am I allowed to play, or am I not allowed?
You can play at Tees Valley Business Club.
I worked on Teesside for 12 years.
Yeah, well, you're still an honorary Teessider. We've got members all over outside of Tees Valley that still will come to the networking events, or now they're virtual. Actually, they don't have the travel time as well to put in there. But because Tees Valley is such a great place to do business, and it'll be an even greater place to do business if we get, say, Freeport and the Keys Works site and everything else. We are an absolute diamond of the UK. Then, other people from outside of the Tees Valley are very welcome to the business club, and to join in with the networking there, because if everyone's there to do business.
Well, I'll speak to Jane. And actually, I had lunch with Jane at FedEx the first week I set up on my own. And
Oh,
I know
lovely.
Jane's lovely, but I'll sweet talk Jane, and she'll let me play
Yeah.
for
Oh,
once.
yeah. You're very, most welcome. Most welcome always.
So thank you for your time and the 45 minutes that we've had a quick conversation. You've got some very nice messages across various different channels and stuff. So you've got a lot of friends out there. It's been lovely to kind of, catch up and stuff as well,
I
just to kind
know.
of, because I haven't seen you in a while, but
Yeah.
hopefully touch some
Maybe
wood.
we should do lunch at Bentleys.
We could, I think you should start your own interviews where you do that. So call it Lunch at Bentleys,
That's
Emily
good.
with whoever. Once a week, you sat in the venue, eat cake, eat coffee. It'd be brilliant. And actually, if you've ever seen on Netflix, there's something called Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Oh, right.
It's
No,
so
I'll have to look at that.
it's Jerry Seinfeld interviews people, but in coffee shops.
Oh,
But you
wow.
could copy
Okay.
that, and I'll teach you
Yeah.
how to live stream, and it'd be brilliant. It'd
Yeah.
be the best social media stuff you ever do.
That'd be so cool. That'd be so cool.
Well, Emily, thank you for your time. Hopefully, we'll
No,
catch
thank
up
you.
soon. It's been a pleasure to kind of catch up and share your story. And actually, when I first saw that you'd done like the whole Bentley's coffee shop thing, but then likewise, there was 1 and 2 and then 3 and then 5. It's great to kind of, see the passion and the ambition and see kind of where it's going to go. And I'm sure you've got a lot of people out there who kind of can't wait to help you and do whatever they can to help as well.
Cool. Thanks
Cool.
very
Well,
much.
thank you for your time, and hopefully we'll catch up soon.
I'll have to do the wave.
Cool. All right, cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.